Today we are going to read the book Atomic Habits. So let's go to the page number 1, the introduction, my story. On the final day of my sophomore year of the high school, I was hit in the face with a baseball bat. As my classmate took a full swing, the bat slipped out of his hands and came flying towards me before striking me directly between the eyes. I have no memory of moment of impact. The bat smashed into my face with such force that it crushed my nose into a distorted U shape. The collision sent the soft tissue of my brain slamming into inside my skull. Immediately a wave of swelling surged throughout my head. In a fraction of a second, I had a broken nose, multiple skull fractures, and two shattered eye sockets. When I opened my eyes, I saw people staring at me and running over to help. I looked down and noticed spots of red on my clothes. One of my classmates took the shirt off his back and handed it to me. I used it to plug the stream of blood rushing from my broken nose. Shocked and confused, I was unaware of how seriously I had injured. My teacher looped his arm around my shoulder and we began to long walk to the nurse office. Across the field, down the hill, and back into school, random hands touched my side. Holding up me upright, we took our time and walked slowly. Nobody realized that every minute mattered. When we arrived at nurse office, she asked me a series of questions. What year it is? 1998, I answered. It was actually 2002. Who is the president of United States? Bill Clinton, I said. The correct answer was George Washington Bush. What is your mom's name? Estelle. 10 seconds passed. Patty, I said casually, ignoring the fact that it had taken me 10 seconds to remember my own mother's name. That is the last question I remember. My body was unable to handle the rapid swelling in my brain, and I lost consciousness before the ambulance arrived. Minutes later, I was carried out of school and taken to local hospital. Shortly after arriving, my body began shutting down. I struggled with basic functions like swallowing and breathing. I had my first seizure of the day. Then I stopped breathing entirely. As the doctor heard, hired to supply me with the oxygen. They also decided the local hospital was unequipped to handle the situation and ordered a helicopter to fly to a larger hospital in Cincinnati. I was rolled out of the emergency room, the roads, and towards the helipad across the street. The stretch rattled on the bumpy sidewalk as one nurse pushed me along while other pumped each breath into me by hand. My mother, who had arrived at hospital a few moments before, climbed into helicopter beside me. I remained unconscious and unable to breathe on my own as she held my hand during the flight. While my mother rode with me in helicopter, my father went home to check on my brother and sister and break the news to them. He choked back tears as he explained to my sister that he would miss siblings off to the family and friends. He drove to Cincinnati to meet my mother. When my mom and I landed on the roof of the hospital, a team of nearly 20 doctors and nurses sprinted onto the helipad and one wheeled me into the trauma unit. By this time, the swelling in my brain had become too severe that I was having repeated post traumatic seizures. My broken bones needed to be fixed, but I was no condition to undergo surgery. After yet another seizure, my third of the day, I was put into the medically induced coma and placed on a ventilator. My parents were no stranger to this hospital. 10 years earlier, they had entered the same building on the ground floor after my sister was diagnosed with leukemia at the age 3. I was 5 at the time. My brother was just 6 months old. After 2.5 years of chemotherapy treatments, spinal tapes, and bones marrow biospice, my little sister finally walked out of the hospital happily, healthy, and cancer free. And now, after 10 years of normal life, my parents found themselves back in the same place with a different child. While I slipped into a coma, the hospital sent a priest and a social worker to comfort my parents. It was same priest who had met with the decade earlier on the evening they found out my sister had cancer. As they faded into night, a series of machines kept me alive. My part my parents slept restlessly on hospital mattress. One moment they would collapse from fatigue. The next day they would be wide awake with worry. My mother would tell me later it was one of the worst nights I ever had. So guys, we are going to read the next part in the next video. Hope so you liked, and please leave a comment because this content is unique. I will improve my language soon. See you guys. Bye bye.